you changed your damn password this year? That would literally be the question. Like it would like up at the top of the Google search engine, have you changed your damn password this year?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Teamwrkr Talks, where we explore the topics, news, events, and most importantly, people influencing today's modern world of work. And today we're talking to Amanda Scheldt, and Amanda is the founder of Infinity Content Solutions and creator of the Glam Techie. And I'm going to spend some time talking about that today. It's super interesting. And is someone who's focused on simplifying cybersecurity for everyday folks and writing about that. She provides writing and communication strategy through Infinity Content Solutions to media companies and blogs and startups and small businesses and all kinds of folks like that. You can find her on the web at infinitycontentsolutions.com, on Instagram at the Glam Techie. And I love that handle. And we'll include other socials like LinkedIn and whatnot here in the show notes. But welcome to Teamwrkr Talks, Amanda. Great to see you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Phil, and the Teamwrkr team. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we've spent, just for full disclosure here to the audience, we've spent, I don't know, a few hours talking about stuff, and I felt it was, and I thought it would be just a great opportunity to sort of hit record on one of these conversations, and this is like a coffee talk, kind of thing, where we're going to sit here, we're just going to kind of bounce around a little bit to some different topics, but I want to start because I'm just so hyped on the Glam Techie and what that means and how you got there and all that kind of stuff. So tell me about that.
First off, I'll go like decades back. I've always been kind of a computer nerd. I was one of my friends that had a computer in the home. My parents bought it after one of my best friends that lived next door to me moved away, because they figured that, hey, let's give her something to keep her busy. Because I wasn't really like an outdoorsy person. I was a Super Mario nerd. So I was always playing Super Nintendo and things like that. And they were like, well, she's super good at that. Let's get her a computer and see what she can do about that. Well, then because that was like at the start of the .com stuff. So both of my parents had for their work to like learn about computers. And they were like, well, hey, let's do this for free, buy a computer and have our kid basically teach us how to use a computer. So it kind of grew from there. I was on a lot of online chat rooms, online forums. I played The Sims a ton. I was really involved in like the cheat codes with Sims. I remember I was involved in one of the big forums that they had out there, which I don't even know if it still exists. I haven't searched some of this stuff in like 10, 15 years. So if it's still out there, that would be really cool. And high school happened, and then I went off to college, and I kind of went with what the easy route was. And then I found myself back into the technical space and wanting to get into that space directly. And so I just went all in. And started pursuing my degree in master's in cybersecurity. And I've never been scholastically like an exemplar student, I'll be honest with you. Even in college, my first time, I was a C's to get degrees kind of person. And because I didn't do anything that I couldn't find a passion or anything that I was passionate about. And back then, technology was still, this was 2007, 2006, technology was still a very male dominated field. So I'm like, I ain't gonna survive in that. So I needed to go a different route. Well, 10 years later is when I figured out that maybe this is the direction I need to be going. While I was in school, I excelled. I excelled so naturally without even trying. And one of the biggest things that professors would tell me is you just have such a knack about wanting to talk about cybersecurity. And they're like, not from a technical level, but from like a human psychology level. Like, trying to actually simplify such technical topics for, an everyday person. And one of my professors actually suggested, she's like, you should start a blog on this. There's like nobody talking about this stuff. You should start a blog on this. And I was like, okay, me start a blog. I don't even know how to build a website, but I taught myself. In the midst of all that, while I was in school, I was still trying to like figure out life. I went through an ending of a long relationship, so I was still trying to figure things out for my own. I have always loved makeup ever since I was a kid, just as much as I love technology. And I used to take dance classes as a kid, and I would do all of my own makeup. And I have some of the pictures. I don't want to say that it was like perfect or like on fleek like it could be now, but for the time frame, I think I did pretty good for, you know, a teenager. And at the same time, I was involved with I hate to say network marketing because I'm not a proprietor of much network marketing anymore, but I was involved in a network marketing company that was in cosmetics. And I was able to take a bunch of makeup classes and I just loved it. And I still love makeup, but it's just not, I've never seen it as a bread and butter type of thing. It's always just been kind of like a cute little hobby on the side. Probably because I'm way too much of a perfectionist to do it professionally, but that's just me. But I graduated and started my blog in 2019, and it actually originally was the Glam and Geek. I don't know, like I kind of threw spaghetti at the wall with it. I was just like, well, that's kind of me, but it just didn't really stick as much. And so I'll be honest with you, I like bounced the idea off of a couple of my coworkers at the time. And one of my other bosses has been running her own YouTube channel for years doing DIY stuff. And she was like, well, maybe you need to like, maybe she was like, maybe you need to have still like the same idea, but like use different synonyms or different words to describe like the point you're trying to get across with that kind of brand name. And so I did a synonym generator and I looked at a couple of them and I wrote them down. And for some reason, I just kept coming back to the Glam Techie. And so I was like, okay, let me do a who is search and see, is that domain available? You know, let me switch everything over. And it was. And the beginning of 2019, I flipped everything over to the Glam Techie. And when I did that, I just saw an influx of people. And it was great because I have such a community on Instagram, on LinkedIn of people that are not only in the technical space or in the cybersecurity space, but I have people that are involved in like that are actual MUAs, that are actually in cosmetic companies. And I, of course, going self-employed, which I'm sure we'll discuss in a little bit, but I've got a lot of people that I connect with on a freelance basis. And that's the thing, like I one of the biggest problems that I had is I thought that I had to be in one lane. I had to be like in one lane. And I don't mean it in the capacity that you can take as many lanes as you want, but you need to like really focus on what your top 3 like hobbies, interests are, and stay within that realm. Like don't try all these different things and see what works and what doesn't. For me, the Glam Techie has worked. I mean, I'm still small potatoes, obviously, comparatively. I've got less than 2,000 followers, but I feel like those 2,000 followers are the most organic, like community-based followers that I've experienced. And I'm connected to people that have, you know, 10, 20, 30,000 followers, and they follow me and we communicate through Instagram or LinkedIn all the time. And it's been really cool to be on this journey. And when I started it, like I had the hopes and aspirations, like, man, I want to blog full time. You know, I really want to run my Instagram full time. And I had the dreams, but I'm like, how is this going to happen? No. But it happened. It happened, and that's the cool thing about it.
Yeah, run with that just for a second for me about hobbies and connecting hobbies to, you know, what you're doing every day. And someone said to me a little while ago, like, yeah, it's super important to have passion projects, even as a freelancer, like you know, you might be into, you know, whatever it might be. Yeah, you're be into tech, or you might be into, and I want to come back. I also want to talk a bit about female in tech. It's fascinating for me. We're gonna come back to that. And maybe even so that transition and how you're working now in the freelance space and whatnot, but passion projects and connecting them. You said maybe this is sort of like a habit formation thing, right? Like how do you form these really good habits? We got a lot of things we're going to talk today about habits. We were chatting beforehand about how I think I might have an excessive either morning coffee and probably evening ice cream habit. Those are my two. Like I'm not sure those are positive for me, but they're habits. I should think about how
it's a matter of perspective.
No, right, yeah. Yeah, anything in excess probably not great, but okay. But how do you find these really good habits about interweaving your passions with making money? Like that's an interesting one.
Honestly, for me, I've always, and I guess I came across it pretty early in my journey, and I'm glad that I did. One of the things that I read in a blog post, and I'd have to really do some digging to see where I found it, but I've seen multiple people talk about it, and they always say that you need to have multiple passions in life, like something to make you money, something that you're just passionate about. You could make money, you cannot make money, but you're just passionate about it, and then something you just generally have an interest in. So for me, and I'm probably gonna present a little bit of a curveball for some people because they may not know this about me because I don't share about this often. So obviously my big thing is writing, blogging, freelancing. That's a hobby that makes me money. That's my big number one that I'm really passionate about. And I think that's why I've been so successful on top of other things, is because I am so passionate about it. Like I truly have this whole, like, I want to help people mentality when it comes to my writing. And I think that's why I've started to see more success this year than I did in previous years with my blog, with my business, and things of that nature. Obviously, makeup and tech. I mean, I could say tech. I take that back. Tech, I would kind of put in the same category. It could make me money. I mean, I could always go back to I have a cybersecurity degree. I could always go back into some kind of lower level cybersecurity role. And I've entertained that idea. But at the same time, it's like, I ask myself, with the current job market right now, like, would it be something I would truly make money and be passionate about? Probably not. And I would say beauty is kind of in the same capacity as well. I love makeup. I probably need to pause my Ipsy subscription, I'm going to be honest. Because I get boxes and boxes and boxes, and I just love playing with the new makeup. I mean, obviously I put on makeup today. I don't do it every day because I'm more of a skincare junkie now, but I would say both of those would be lumped into like the hobby that I could make money from, but I choose not to. I'm just passionate about them. And then the last one, I don't think I'll ever make money from it, but I'm passionate about it. Cars, my whole life. I've been a car nut. That's one of the things that like most people don't know about me. Like I'm kind of a car enthusiast. Like I drive a luxury vehicle, but one, I worked my ass off for it, and two, like I bought it because I wanted that car. Like to me, I have like small goal, big goal dreams, and that was like my dream car. It was actually my graduation present to myself.
Wow, cool.
One of my dad's close friends when I was a kid did like stock car racing on dirt tracks. Mm-hmm. And I'm not necessarily really close with my dad, but that was one of the things that he could guarantee. I'd go to the races. He could plop me down in the stands and never have to worry about me. It's like the racing was literally like a free babysitter.
Yeah. Well, take me now to a little bit into sort of this freelancing journey now, right? I mean, you do the cybersecurity thing, and imagine you thought you were going to just kind of follow that right into some sort of cybersecurity job, maybe marrying together some of the writing and communications work you've done and the cybersecurity stuff. Tell me about freelancing, how you got into it, how's it going? Let's dive on that a little bit.
When I was like finishing up in school, I was actually on a government contract that was involved with like VoIP solutions and like service contracts for the DoD with like some of the like, telecom stuff, tech related stuff. that's the path that I wanted to go with cybersecurity. The problem is digital forensics and intelligence is an extremely small niche of cybersecurity. And I just realized that this was going to be far more challenging than I thought it would be. But I was still trying to pursue it. And then I landed a role with a large company, and it was more involved with helping with like communications on an IT security level. So doing technical writing, doing like communications management. And I was with them for almost a year until, of course, COVID decided to destroy everything in the world. And I loved it, but I think the job was still more lower level than I wanted to, but it helped me hone in on a lot of those technical writing skills. And I really was able to flourish more on the writing side of things. And so when I got laid off, and I mean, my boss was even like, I tried so hard to keep you, but they cut like IT by like 30 or 40%. You were the first one in, last one to go. Like there was nothing I can do. The main project I was on basically ended. And so that's why I pretty much lost that contract. So I was like, okay, let me see if I can build up my blog. And so I started doing a little bit more writing, and I had connected with one or two other bloggers that just needed help with just more low level like blog posts, like about lifestyle and things like that. And I did like a couple of guest posts, and then they were like, well, can you help me? Like, I mean, I'll pay you to write for me. And they're like, well, what's your rate? Like, what's your per word rate, or what's your, per article rate? And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm like, I don't know, $20, $25. Like, and I realized I was a way more talented writer than I was giving myself credit for. And at the same time, the work was inconsistent. So I'm like, okay. And I was still applying for jobs. I was still trying to stay in the cybersecurity field for at least 6 months after I got laid off. And I was just doing a little bit of writing here and there. My unemployment was cutting out at the end of 2020. So I'm like, okay, I got to figure this out. I'm like, I got to figure this out. And so I said to myself, I'm like, okay, well, I do like the writing thing. I like working for myself. I like not having a boss to answer to. My clients that I work with, they're very easy to work with. And I know, that's not forever, but I was like, I need to find consistent work. And I just started following hot leads. And surprisingly, I was finding leads in so many, I don't want to say just unique places, not where, like if you Google a freelancer article, they're going to tell you go on Fiverr, Upwork, maybe search like Indeed if there's any writing jobs. I didn't even start. I was like, nope, because I got on Fiverr, and I was on Fiverr originally at the end of 2020, and all I got was spam. And I even paid like $50 to take like a small, like just like self-guided. And I paid $50 for it. And I mean, my unemployment was running out. So, the steady income source was about to be gone. Of course, we know that, unemployment had been extended multiple times since then, but I was literally anticipating going into 2021, like I have no income and I can't find a job. And so I took that course, and I tried to optimize my Fiverr and my Upwork profile originally when I started at the end of 2020. And all I got was spam. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Well, then they deactivated my accounts later in 2020 or early 2021 because I didn't have any traffic. And I'm like, okay, but I optimized my profile after I paid for this course. And, for all I know, that could have been my last $50. It wasn't, but still. And so I'm like, okay, this is not working. So it took me probably until about March, because of course, around the same time, Biden came out and said, oh, we're going to extend unemployment until March, the middle of March. And of course, it got extended until September after then, which I will talk about that shortly because I did not get it till September. I'll tell you that right now. But so then I'm like, okay, I got a little bit more time. I've got a little bit more steady income. They'll still be coming in for a couple of months. But I'm like, March, like I still need to get, those 3 months after they came out with the legislature. And even then, on top of it, I do want to talk about that unemployment situation was really messy for anybody who was unemployed at the beginning of this year. Oh, I went 2 months without seeing any unemployment when they had to kick it back in until March. Finally, once that came in, like it was like middle of February or something like that, then I'm like, okay, back to focusing on let's grow this business, let's increase it. And I started looking at other areas. I started looking back in some of those blogger groups on Facebook, you know, people asking, hey, I need some help with content. I need help with content strategy. I started following hot leads on LinkedIn. I started following subs on Reddit. There's a huge amount of work that is available on Reddit subs. I just started following hot leads. And then I started looking at like LinkedIn jobs and seeing, you know, are people even looking for freelance writers? And so that's how I found a couple more of my clients, and I started with them. Of course, when you apply for jobs on LinkedIn, you kind of still, even though it's a freelancer space, they still kind of go through a traditional like job interview. Like they got to make sure, you know, they want to see your samples, they want to talk to you before they want to bring you on board. I landed a second and third client in May. I was still on unemployment at that time. And I was still kind of applying for jobs too, because I'm like, you know, I don't know which direction I want to take this. I'm like, you know, cybersecurity is my fallback. I'm still going to apply for jobs. And I had some good interviews, but nothing was going that direction. Nothing was going that direction. And I'm just like, I just got to give up on this pipe dream of cybersecurity. I mean, you know, and I don't want to say like I gave up. I really put it on pause. I decided to go all in last May. That's when I officially started founding my company name. Even though I've been writing for longer than that, I founded my company name. Took a little bit of time. I had to build, of course, the second website. I am not a web designer, so if you see any of my websites, please know that it took me several months to make it look like that. Because I'm not a designer, but I self-taught myself. I self-taught myself how to build the websites. I did not have to pay anybody to do it. I mean, heck, my partner's a graphic designer and he's done web development. I think there was less than a handful of times between both sites where I'd be like, you got to help me with this. I just don't know what I'm doing. Most of it, I kind of just played around and figured it out.
Well, yeah,
and that's been a big thing.
Let me ask about that, like sort of in terms of motivation. A lot of folks that we see are kind of in this space of I'm transitioning into freelance, or I'm not happy with current situation, whatever it is, but they're just not quite sure what to do. You know, I think rightfully so, anxious, scared a little about taking a step into like an unknown area. And something that's touched upon there was like, hey, I just taught myself how to do this. You know, like, okay, yeah. I don't know how to do this website stuff. Or, for example, going back, and I want to hear a little bit more about Fiverr and Upwork and what you learned in that process too. But if we could just start, like, what would you say to people like thinking about, I want to do this, but I don't know what to do? You know, did you have resources that you found out there? Like, okay, I could get help, or, you say you taught yourself on the web dev side a little bit, dig in a little bit. What do you think? You know, it's a little scary.
I started small. I talked to, the two bloggers that I was working with previously. I started getting more leads. I had 2 clients and 2 more clients that I added in May. And then I added a bigger one in June of this year. And it was just one of those that it was just like, what I did in that time between probably, I would say about March to May, is I really tried to like create blog posts and see and pay attention to what other people are doing in that space. I did follow a couple of gurus, and I would just see what's working for them. And then it was a lot of it, and I hate to say it this way, a lot of it is trial and error. But when I say trial and error, I always tell people, make it to where it's not going to cost you money. Because people will do trial and error, and they'll make the mistake like I did, and they'll pay $50 for like a, learn how to have a Fiverr optimized profile, and then you get nowhere with it. Like, don't waste the money. There are so many free resources out there. If anything, like, find somebody to mentor me. And that was one of the things. The one lady that I worked with that was paying me, it was probably about $40 or $50 an article whenever I was working with her business. Like, her and I had more of like a mentor-mentee relationship, because she would say like, that was great, but typically this is what I do. This is how most articles are structured. And she was a copywriter. And so she would provide me constructive feedback. She would provide me samples. I think that's one of the things for people starting out is, first of all, don't pay for advice. I'm a big proprietor for that, because I've done all of this, and I think I'm only out. I did make another mistake. I bought some copywriting templates off somebody and paid too much for that too. I'm probably only out $200, but I know people who have dropped thousands, and please do not do that. Do not do that. Find someone who's willing to mentor you and show you what's working for them, so then you can go and do it yourself. And that's one of the things, like with my business, like I'm hoping for 2022, like, yes, I would love to hire a writer, but what I would prefer working with is I want to work with people who actually want to learn how to do it themselves and help them fly. So for 2022, my goal, I'm going to start having a mentorship relationship with a couple of newer freelancers, because that's what worked for me. That's honestly what worked for me. I wouldn't be where I am today for a multitude of reasons, but if I wouldn't have really tried to hone in on actually getting myself an actual mentor. And when I say a mentor, I'm not talking a business coach. I'm talking someone who's doing the job that I can kind of shadow to an extent, that can, like, not just give you the breadcrumbs, but show you how they do it, how it should be done, or what works.
It's really interesting, because that's the something I'm discovering here, is that it's so key to have people. I mean, I can say in my life, if it weren't for there's probably dozens of people who actually took me under their wing, but then there's sort of like the key half a dozen or so who were like, oh, hey, this is how you do this, or yes, you can try that, but I've tried it before and it didn't work for me for these reasons, or it did work, or whatever.
Right.
Guiding, mentoring. I think there's a difference. I don't have the definition of it. I should look it up. There was an article I found somewhere that was talking about the difference between a coach and a mentor.
Yes, and we were talking about that in one of our chats too.
I think one of the things is a coach is more prescriptive. Like, hey, do it this way, and that's sort of like you mentioned, the breadcrumb. Like, that's not necessarily as helpful as someone who's saying, okay, let's think through this and look at other examples out here in the world that we could find that are helpful to us. So. Did you, one of the things I think that I think, this is a great topic. It's probably one we could even launch into for a whole other episode here, but mentoring, that we're finding that freelancers around the globe are looking for mentors. And one thing I would say to them, first of all, I want to hear your thoughts. It's like, how do you find that mentor? I'm more introverted as well. I'm not a person who's like Mr. Extrovert or whatever. And so that can be a little bit challenging, but finding a mentor, I think the first thing is just sort of ask, right? Like, ask for help, right? So tell me a little more about that. How do you think that, what would we express people are looking for that mentor? I
mean, I'd like to say it also has to go along with like alignment. Like, I'm a big proprietor of what you are seeking is seeking you. And that's from like a spiritual place, which we could have a whole nother episode about my belief system around some of that. But I always believe what is seeking you. And I mean, I've had a mentor in pretty much every job I've had since I was a teenager. Even in my internship, I had a mentor. And one of the things too that we have to remember with a mentor-mentee relationship is it's not always going to be necessarily forever. Like my mentor that I had in the cybersecurity space in digital forensics, I no longer talk to them anymore. We just did not align with several things after a certain point, and we went our separate ways. And that happens. I think a lot of it has to do with like really connecting with people that are on the same wavelength as you at that current moment in time. And then for me personally, like that's one of the things that I really want to do in my business is I want to help other new freelancers and new writers really get out there. And maybe some of the things is I need to express, hey, I need some mentees here. I need people to mentor that I want to help along on their journey. So I think it's one of those that we have to basically align in both ways. You need to be out there seeking a mentor, but you need to also look for people who appear to be seeking people that they want to mentor. Otherwise, you may be fraught with people who aren't going to be willing to help you. And I'm sorry, like I love Instagram, but there are people out there in the freelance space that are just like, breadcrumbs. Here's some breadcrumbs. Whereas me, like, I want you to be successful. We are on the same team. We all want to break the 9-to-5. We all want to make money for ourselves. This isn't a competition with anybody but ourselves. And that's the way that I feel in this space that we have a problem with, is we have people that think that it's a competition against freelancers when it should be a competition against yourself. We all bring something different to the table. I can guarantee you there are so many people out there that are much better writers than me, and there are probably people out there that are much worse writers than me. But if I put myself in the mindset or the mind space saying that, I'm better than so-and-so, or that so-and-so is better than me, that's coming from a lack mindset, and that's not going to align me with people that I want to work with, the people I want to mentor. So I think one of the biggest things is you need to align yourself with people who are wanting to mentor other people, and you are wanting to have a mentor in your life. Otherwise, you're going to be probably faced with a lot of rejection. And sometimes as human condition, we don't like rejection. We don't. It's hard. But I think that's the best way to go about it, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to kind of, just to kind of loop back on a little bit, certainly that the stars have to align a little bit, right? I mean, in terms of looking for a mentor, I want to explore that topic or that comment about what you are seeking is seeking you. I think that's a really neat way to approach it, certainly in mentoring. And we're definitely finding that talking to people, I'm finding it, it may not be that going to help you now. I can help you later, maybe along your journey, but I'm not in that space right now where I can help you today. I might be able to, in a month, I might be able to, help, maybe not, depends on where things go. But being able to let go of that relationship as well is important, to say, okay, this has run its course, and we always have that. Yeah, it's so funny because coming out of more traditional enterprise type businesses where you're kind of rotated through. We always talk about this, like how do we as freelancers take some of the best of prior experiences in business and bring them into the freelance space. And that's certainly one I think is missing. You can kind of, you can't really walk into someone's office and be like, hey, how's it going? How was your weekend? I have an issue going on here, whatever, either personal, professional, whatever. That's kind of like that instant level of communication isn't there. But I think that if we can program it more, that is to say, setting aside time for that.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a big proprietor that you need to set aside time for yourself, but you need to also set aside time that you want to dedicate to your own growth also. And not just on a personal level, but on a business level as well. Like that's one of the big things that I've done over the last couple of months that I think that's helped me be successful, is that I And I do get overwhelmed. I'm not going to pretend like this is an easy cakewalk for anyone, because I mean, you've seen when I've gotten overwhelmed and I'm like, I just don't have time to chat today or anything like that. But I think that it's important, and it's really helped me with shifting my mindset and creating more abundance in my business, is just giving myself the time. Like I'll be honest with you, I'm not on social media a ton anymore. I have a social media presence for sure, but I'm not on there all the time. And I think that that's because it can be personally draining. I've learned that the only time that I need to be on stuff like that is when I'm connecting with other people, when other people are asking for my help, and I give them the time and the space to help them the best that I can. And then I just let it lie. And then I focus back on my work. And I think that's one of the things that you need to allow the time to for yourself, but you also need to allow the time to be present for those that are asking for the help that you need, especially in the freelance space. Because like I said, this is not a competition. I don't look at any of this as a competition.
It kind of maybe goes back to the whole experiences on sites like Fiverr and Upwork and that type of stuff, where it feels like it's this constant race to the bottom. Yeah, there's always someone who's gonna price it lower or whatever it is, and maybe that works for them and that's fine. But you know, I think that we've been talking about how this whole freelance thing is more about, and you know, some people call it solopreneurship, some people call it entrepreneurship, founder, whatever it is, mindsets, you know, whatever that is, that the journey you want to call it. But it's more about sort of finding your way and being collaborative than it is competitive, right? I mean, you talked a little about
absolutely.
That. You know, where, you know, we're talking about the Fiverr Upworker experience and contrast that with, you know, collaboration and competitive, right? I mean, I know the Fiverr Upwork experience, I'll be honest, most of the folks, it's amazing to me, because when I first came into this space, I was thinking, wow, this is going to be awesome. I could probably pick up some gigs on Upwork or something like that or whatever. And I don't know who's getting these gigs. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but these are giant companies. They're very successful companies. I mean, publicly traded giant businesses, multi-billion-dollar companies. I mean, you know, the dissatisfaction level is also pretty high, though. So how did you, you know, you early on, you were doing that, and then it didn't really pan out, right? I mean, this is not something you found.
Nope, not at all. And I think it goes back to the whole, like, you have to try it and see if it's going to work. And if it doesn't work, try something else, or see how you can tweak it, how you can pivot what you're doing into something else. So for me, I realized very early on, Fiverr was extremely oversaturated. And the thing about Fiverr is you have to wait for people to come to you. You have to kind of play with the algorithm and wait for people to come to you. And I'm not a beggar. I don't like, okay, so one of the biggest things about me is I kind of have a little bit of an ultra independence thing. So I like figuring it out for myself. I don't necessarily like asking for help unless I really, really need the help. And so with Fiverr, you know, you don't have the opportunity to, like, you're not going to have leads. Like, you share it on your social media. Like, this is what my experience was with Fiverr, and it could be different for other people, but you share, like, you know, your profile on social media, and if people connect with you, great. But what I was experiencing is people were not connecting with me. And on Fiverr, you don't bid for work. Like, people have to find you. They have to be looking for you. And I had a very hard time with that. So, but the statistically odds of you landing a client within your first month, even if you share it on social media, is pretty low. And going into Upwork, I have a lot of co-ops about Upwork, especially from a security mindset standpoint. And I don't necessarily know if Fiverr does this, because I haven't gotten very far with Fiverr with a client at all. But I know for a fact that Upwork does screen grabs when you are working on projects. And I could be wrong, but the last time I did research, they do screen grabs just to kind of provide proof whenever you're doing work for a client that you placed a bid on. And the problem that I have for that is that if you capture my screen right now, you can see my saved tabs. You can see the tabs I have open. You can see, like, all of my like pinned to the taskbar stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
And that is revealing personally identifiable information. And I have a problem with that. We live in a cyberspace where you are prone to be hacked at any moment. And I had a very hard, I actually got in an argument with Upwork recently about that, because I'm like, that's a security violation. I'm sorry. No matter how you look at it, that is a personal security violation. That is a data privacy violation right there. And they're like, well, we have to do it for our clients. And I said, okay, but your client could also be like a scammer. You don't know that. And there are people that have gotten scammed on Upwork. There's people that have gotten scammed on Fiverr. And I think that it opens the opportunity from a security mindset standpoint that can very easily happen to you. And then from a freelancing standpoint with Upwork, I have a hard time having to bid on jobs. I have a hard time with that. Like, I can chase hot leads on Reddit. I can chase hot leads on LinkedIn, but my ratio to landing the client is going to be so much higher in a different capacity than it is Upwork.
Like, let me talk to me about Reddit. I'm a Reddit fan, and
I love Reddit.
It's fascinating. Yeah, but I want to understand more about how you mentioned, and this might be some really sort of tactical, really good help for our audience. Like, because I think everybody is a little bit frustrated with Fiverr and Upwork. Not to say that some people aren't super happy with those sites and that they're
right,
successful and they're doing well with that. But I would say it's probably like a 5-to-1 ratio that I hear that that's just not working for me enough to make this my career, my real income.
right.
And so tell me about some of these alternate places people might not be thinking about, Reddit being one of them. And you mentioned chasing hot leads on Reddit. That's like a tactical, yes. Like what, you know what I mean? How do you find leads on Reddit? And what do you think is why does it work for you? What's that been about?
Okay, so I actually do more than Reddit, and I'm happy to reveal, like, and that's the thing, like I said, this is not a competition. So if people straight up ask me, I will be glad to tell you where
Sure.
I see success. Reddit, you can find leads. Now, Reddit is also, it can be highly competitive sometimes. For hire and the hire a writer is probably the two biggest subs that you can find leads in. The thing that I do want to be honest about Reddit with people is you have to be quick. You have to be quick. And some of these are some really hot leads that, I mean, it gets posted and they'll have 10 comments within like 20 minutes of people saying, you know, sent you a DM, things like that. So you do have to be quick. And I mean, it's hard because you don't want to just allocate like so much time to finding leads. I feel like for leads, you need to at least, depending on where you're at in your business or your freelancer journey, if you're newer, you need to have I feel like, this is me personally, and this is what worked. If you're a newer freelancer, you need to have a 60-40 ratio. You need to be chasing at least 60% leads and 40% work. Okay. Because when you're newer, it's going to be harder because you're competing with people like me who've been in it for a year or two. For leads. Now, when you get more experience, you have a more established client base, you're getting some steady income source, I would say then you probably need to flip it and have a 40% lead time and 60% work time, because you've already got an existing client base. You're just wanting to scale it up and grow it more. But like I said, Reddit, you have to be on top of it. And I would say to avoid being on there, maybe get on first thing in the morning and first thing in the evening and chase the leads on like hire a writer and the for hire subs. And then the way to do it with that is only give yourself like an hour each way. Go with the most recent ones that say that, and there's they have stickers that'll say they're hiring advanced, hiring, and things like that. So I would see what the comment level is. If you've got something that was like, 10 hours ago and it's got 20 comments, I would not chase that lead. That's just me personally, because they're going to have a complete overflow of people DMing them about this lead. You can also post your information out there saying that you are looking for, more people to write for, and people can contact you. That's the one thing that I like about Reddit. Some of the other areas that I've seen success. So one of the biggest things, is Facebook blogger groups. You can use the search engine, and you're not going to find a ton of hot leads there. It depends on the size of the group, but I would look into like blogger groups, coaching groups. Even though I'm not a huge proprietor of coaching, that is a lead. If they need somebody to write for their website, you can make money doing that. I would join writer groups. I would join other writer groups because they're like myself. I only will chase certain writing projects. So I've been asked by people like if I do more creative writing, nonfiction, stuff like that. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not that good. I'm not that good in that space. So like, for example, last night I had a client of mine that I've done editing work for, and they asked, do you do children's short stories? And I said, no, I typically don't. I'd be happy to try it, but it's not necessarily my lane. Right. Let me see if I can connect you to someone. I had that happen with another client. They wanted a social media manager.
So I just want to jump in here. So you just said you have a client who you're doing some work for who wants children's short story writing.
Yes.
Like that seems
I do
like a
editing work for them.
Okay, yeah, it's like a pretty particular demand,
yes.
though, right? This is the fascinating part about this stuff to me, because I have seen stuff like this where if you can just dig in, and these are fantastic tips, I don't want to take it off the topic, but if you just dig into what your specialty is or your interests are, and maybe that goes back to your passion play, you're like, I like this stuff, and so, I see one day you're going to be writing about cars or something like that, right? But it's like
I already am, but
there you go. Don't tell me, right? Yeah. So, but that's a really interesting way that you can connect your enjoyment in life with some other, making money. Yes. And I think that's part of the key thing people are looking for as they're out here trying to transition to freelancing or to enhance their freelancing skills or career. But back to sort of the tactical stuff here. Blogger groups. We'll put a summary of this in for folks in the show notes here. Yeah, we'll have this all in the show notes. But I mean, I just kind of to sum it up and just be conscious. I know, be conscious of your time. We're going on here, which is great. But I got a couple of other topics I want to get to. But just sort of one is maybe getting off some of the main off of Upwork and Fiverr, diving into some other sites. Don't sleep on Facebook. There's stuff in there that you can find, right? Blogger groups, coaching, things like that. You can find some writing that you can do for people. And that probably will help you in the beginning. As you said, I love that split 60-40, in terms of in the beginning, you got to spend the majority, over 50% of your time finding new work. And connecting to others, because if you don't, you're going to get caught, and this might not, caught battling.
It's going to dry up. That's the way that I say. It's going to straight up dry up. That's what's going to happen.
Right. I love the Reddit being another sort of secondary site that might actually be more primary for some people, because they do have those subgroups of hire a writer, the for hire subgroup as well. But be conscious of the fact that when something's posted in there, it's real short.
Oh, they're hot. I mean, they're on fire is what I call it. I call those fire leads, not hot leads. Those are fire leads.
Burning,
they're needing the help like today.
And that's interesting, because that's different than someone who might be, if I looked at Indeed or something else that's a little more long term, if we're in the Reddit groups, they're like, this is happening now. So the people in Reddit are like, I got to get this done. Like they're the real doers.
I got to send my stuff off today.
This is it. It's like a now thing. So help me out with this. So be ready. And that might be an interesting way too. Maybe you got some longer term things going on. Be like, wow, this week I'd love to pick up some shorter term stuff. I'd love to get something today, tomorrow. Maybe you can jump into the Reddit stream and swim around a little bit and see what you find there. We were talking earlier about sort of positive habits, and one of the things that comes up sometimes is sort of like just like personal habits. We're talking about, like you mentioned, in another conversation we had, we're talking about giving up alcohol for 2021. Yeah. And I because we were talking, like, I think we mentioned, like, oh, it's been such a tough day. In my past, I might have grabbed some White Claws or something like that. Myself, I might have grabbed some Johnny Walker or something like that, because that's my kind of go-to. But tell me about what got you thinking about maybe I should stop drinking alcohol, or if it's just sort of like a thing, I just want to try this or whatever. And then how's it going? Like, what, you find clarity, or you're like, no, I could just go back and start.
I'm more than happy to share about that. I mean, because it's very personal for me. And I'll be honest with you, giving up alcohol is not for everyone. But it's really been great for me. So I quit drinking March of this year. With the pandemic, I'll be honest with you, I think it created more alcoholics than anything.
Mm,
I'll be
yeah,
honest.
definitely some
I
bad
will be
habits
honest.
formation. Yeah, yeah.
We have a local grocery store that has what they call Wine Wednesdays, and you can buy 6 bottles of wine and get like 20% off. And I was buying $5 barefoots and getting 20% off, and I probably have the 5 barefoots gone by Sunday. And they had it Wine Wednesday. Yeah. And I think for me personally, I was just to a point, both personally, spiritually, and for my business, realizing that the more, yeah, I loved, even if I scaled back to even just a glass of wine, it's like something in me, I couldn't just do a glass of wine anymore. And it's just something in me was like, you know what, this isn't working. If we want to get to where we want to go in life, we got to give some stuff up. And I decided right before a trip, I I hate to say I had a bender, but it was after a Wine Wednesday, and it was 3 days, and I did not buy 6 bottles of wine. I only bought like 2 or 3, but I mean, the 2 or 3 were gone, and I'm like, I felt like garbage. I felt like garbage for like 2 or 3 days. I went on that trip, and even the whole day I was cranky. I just felt terrible. My stomach was in knots about everything. And I was like, you know what? I just don't want to live this life anymore. I don't. I was like, don't get me wrong. I'm always probably going to have a sweet spot for a good glass of red wine with a plate of pasta, but it don't work for me anymore. It doesn't do it. And I realized from a spiritual standpoint that it was actually probably hindering me more than helping me, especially in a mental capacity and financially. It's not cheap to drink. It's not. And so I stopped. I stopped cold turkey. I've tried to do like non-alcoholic drinks, and it just like a mudslide, a non-alcoholic mudslide is just a milkshake. Like, come on. It's just, a virgin daiquiri is basically just a strawberry smoothie. Like, it's just, I'm not going to pay for it. I'm not going to pay for it. It's too expensive. And I just realized that if I want full mental clarity, if I really want to work on, I had a lot of anxiety too around then. So I was like, I need to allocate my resources a little better financially, spiritually, mentally. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to give up drinking, and then I'm going to see what happens. And I had one hiccup right around my birthday last year, and it just, after then, and I don't even consider it. I don't even like to count it, because it was one slip up, and that one slip up was just all I needed to remind myself that don't need this. It's not serving me anything. And so I quit. It's been probably officially, let's see, it's December, 8 months. I don't know. I might have that wrong in my head. I'm not the best with math. I'll be honest with you. I'm a tech person, not a math person, but it wasn't serving me anymore. And I rather have a cup of coffee, to be honest with you. Rather have a cup of coffee.
So you find that I'm tying this into like your clarity a little bit, right? When you're trying to focus and do some deeper work, you're really trying to write something or whatever. So that's helpful, huh? Yeah, that's
because and I remember I realized at the time too that like the stress of deadlines and writing and stuff like that was really preempting a lot more binging out of the situation than just like, a nice little glass of wine with dinner. So I was like, we just need to stop this altogether. I gave myself a couple of months, and I really wanted to work on my anxiety. And I took pretty much all the money that I had saved from not drinking. Cause I'll be honest with you, I was probably spending between $50 and $60 a month on booze. And, right now
Yeah,
with
that's
with
pretty
the
easy.
gas prices. That's pretty much like a tank of gas.
Right. Yeah, for
And
sure. Yeah.
I put that money aside and I saved it, and I decided to start getting myself back into counseling, like just to help with my anxiety. I wasn't trying to dig anything else up or work through anything else. I just wanted to try and manage my anxiety better. And I'm so glad that I do that now. I'm still stuck with it. I've been with my counselor right now, working through my anxiety, probably 6 months now. I just went through I'm going through a grief process right now because I just recently lost one of my last family members here on my mom's
Oh,
side,
sorry to hear
and
that.
I I'm so proud of myself. I mean, I got to be completely honest, and even, and of course my counselor says that she's proud of me too, but it's like life happens, it really does. And for me, like every time something happened, like I had a bad day or like something major happened, like I turned to a glass of wine to numb it. And I realized with everything that you shouldn't just numb it. Sit with it. Give it a little space, give it its moment, and then let the moment pass. And that's one of the biggest things that like counseling has really helped for me, even just managing my anxiety. Like I'll be honest with you, like that was why I got into it. It wasn't necessarily I wanted to do like any kind of childhood trauma work or anything like that. But it's just managing my anxiety and getting to the root issue of my anxiety has really like moved mountains for me, both like as a person and in my business, because now I'm not scared when something big happens. Now I don't freak out. Now I don't resort to 6 bottles of wine on Wine Wednesday anymore because I'm going through a hard time. Now I give it the moment, I let it pass, and then I get back to what I'm doing because I'm passionate about what I'm doing. And that's one of the biggest things that I think stopping drinking has happened is I've been able to put more energy into things that I've been wanting to put energy in for years. And that's important to me.
Yeah, interesting. I love what you said there about we all have these sadness or anxiety or whatever it might be, those sort of negative feelings, and being able to sit with them. I love that concept. It's be present. It's here. That's
Yeah.
okay. It's a feeling that is fine to have, and let it have its own space. And then now, okay, we're good with that, right? We can move on to do something else. I think that's super, super
Yeah,
insightful.
and I've seen a lot with like even family members that I love and cherish, friends. I've even seen that like something happens and they just kind of push it to the wayside or they compartmentalize it and they don't give it the space to just feel it. I mean, we're human. We have emotions. If you don't sit with them, you're stuffing them down and then they're just going to explode. That was my problem. That was my problem for the longest time is I would just sit with stuff and then I would just blow up. Like I was a ticking time bomb all the time. And that was one of the things I really wanted to work through. And I knew if I really wanted to curb my anxiety, I had to cut certain things out and really start getting some support to help me work through my anxiety.
Amen to that. I mean, I know people who are going to be watching and listening to this are going to relate right away. We talk about a fair amount actually internally, sort of with the team at Teamwrkr, and then in my own personal life and all that. And I think there's and thank you for sharing, because that it's so big for people to hear that from other folks out here, that this is not, you're not alone with that struggle, and you're not it's not something you can't overcome either, right? This is happening.
Right.
And I think the pandemic certainly has highlighted that for people, right? This is just, I've been sitting with this stuff. I've been not sitting with it, or I've been sitting on it, if you will, for a while. And it doesn't need to be like you said, it doesn't need to be that we're coming in to do some deep work about my childhood. That may or may not be something you get into, but even just the everyday anxiety levels are higher now. I think it's good to deal with them. But so thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
One, I want to hear a little about what would you say to the community? You got open mic here. You can say anything to people who might be listening, who are in the freelance space, who are thinking about doing it, or are doing it, or thinking about getting out of it. What is there something you would or it could be just a recommendation you have for them or anything like that? What would you kind of bring to them?
I would say I'm gonna chunk it into 3 categories because I think you made some really good topics about some of those 3 categories. So what I would say to someone who's new is try to exhaust any free resources that you can right now. Try and find a mentor, but also look for someone who's willing to mentor you, not just, sell you their coaching program. Try and be financially savvy, budget accordingly. I mean, it's inconsistent income. It is. I'll be honest with you. Some months you're going to probably have only 1K month. Some months you might have a 5K month. You allocate for both. That's the biggest thing. I think that's the biggest mistake that some freelancers make, and that's why they get out of it, is because they're like, it's inconsistent income. Some people, they love the steady paycheck. If that's you, treat it like a side hustle then. Just do a little bit at a time, especially if somebody's working full time. Like, I'm a huge recommendation. Like, yes, you eventually want to quit your job. I get that. Trust me. I get that. I worked in some really crappy corporations over my time. But the biggest thing is you got to have something established to jump into. Like, I believe in I don't want to say seamless transitions because nothing is seamless in life, but you want to make it as simplified for yourself as possible to just go into it, but don't overwhelm yourself. So if you want to become a writer full-time, or you want to become an editor full-time, or even just a blogger full-time, make sure that you're established and pillar yourself as someone who can get the work while you're still working full-time. Otherwise, you're going to have some freak out moments, seriously, whenever you quit your job. I was very blessed that I had unemployment to back me up until about June of this year. I haven't seen what I would call a steady check since the beginning of June 2020. And I also am not bankrupt. So it's possible. It's very possible. And I say that in relation to people who are new and established in the community, that, you can choose to give up, but you have to understand the risk of giving up or keeping going. And it's no different than starting at the same time. You took a risk to start. You have to take a risk to continue. And if you decide that you want to give up, you have a risk that you will take with giving up. One of the biggest things I tell myself all the time is I was like, I can just go get a job at Target if I don't want to do this anymore. Or I've done grocery deliveries during the pandemic. I did it when my grandma was alive so that I could get free delivery, because she is the pickiest person to shop for. She was the pickiest person to shop for on the planet. But because of the pandemic, I had to have stuff delivered to her. And so I started it, and I would do a couple here and there just so I'd get free delivery. So for me, that's always going to be a fallback. I do maybe 1 delivery a month to stay active on the platform, but it's an income source. I don't believe in one income stream. And that's the same thing with the job. I'm sorry, even if it's a steady income source, they could cut you tomorrow. That's something you have to remember. Everything in life is temporary, but the thing that you have to do is pillar yourself to navigate that water, even when it's stormy. You really got to be able to anchor yourself in to where you can handle the water when it's calm and handle water when it's stormy. For anybody that's wanting to get out of the community, that doesn't want to freelance anymore, yes, you can go back to a 9-to-5 job, but I guarantee you one of the hardest things you will face if you go back to a 9-to-5 job, and if that's what you want to do, by all means, that's your life, do it if that's important to you. But you're going to struggle with authority, because I had that problem. You are going to struggle with authority because you were your own boss. You don't want to answer to the boss. So that's something you really need to consider if you decide that you want to quit this. You need to financially prepare that the work's going to disappear if you want to quit. I also like to pose the question to people that are thinking that they want to give up on this journey is, what do you think that you're doing wrong? What can you change about the situation at hand now that can continue on in this journey? Or have you just hit the end of the road with it? If you hit the end of the road with it, by all means, take another path or take a left turn if you have to, and see where it goes from there. But it would be something that I think they need to really sit down and sit with themselves and ask the questions on what's not working. Why is this not working for me? And 9 times out of 10, I don't want to say it's not you're not working hard enough. It's because you're not working smart enough.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. That sounds a lot like some mentoring right there. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. That's why I want to, and if anybody sees this and they're like, hey, can you mentor me? By all means. Because it was my original AIM screen name. Right. This is how historic that. Okay, so I'll go ahead and say it for those who see this. It's Kubi's 2000. There was a joke behind that name. There was a girl that I could not understand how she was enunciating cool beans. I thought she was saying Kubi's, and I thought it was cool. I thought it sounded catchy.
If you could take over Google's site for one day. So when people were searching for something, the plain old Google's, if we can go there now and show if there's some sort of like, it's whatever day on Google's, the Google, I forget what they're calling, blanking on what they call it now, but what would you put up on Google that millions of people would see today or tomorrow whenever we tell you to do it for one day? What would be on there as sort of just like, and maybe it's more like, if you want to sort of bring it down a little, maybe it's sort of a billboard you would have for a week or something like that. What would the message that you would get out sort of on the Google machine for a day? Could be anything.
Oh, I don't want to say my two personalities, but my two sides to me are really fighting each other right now because there's two different ones. First one would be, how do you change your damn password this year? That would literally be the question. Like it would, like up at the top of the Google search engine, have you changed your damn password this year? Question mark. So many people don't. Okay? And that's how you get hacked. I'm sorry. That's how you get hacked, because you have the same password since 2005. True. The other side of me, and it probably makes me sound like a hippie, would be, did you recycle that water bottle? Yeah. Nice. I've become way more environmentally friendly. I mean, I don't want to say I'm a diehard hippie, because I do have some conservative tendencies also, especially because of where I grew up. It's a much more Republican conservative area. But I do believe in cycling and really caring for the planet, because God created us all on this planet. We need to take care of the planet, Mother Nature. Yeah. So I would also say, did you recycle that water bottle today? So, and I'd probably I would want to do like Earth Day, and I'd have like a picture of the Earth and like a heart maybe or something like that. Nice. That's the spiritual. Well, you can kind of mix them up.
Maybe you got like a little matrix, like 0101 thing. It's like change your password and
binary code. Yes.
And recycle that bottle.
Binary code.
Right? Yes. Great. That's all zeros and ones now, right? Yeah.
Like decode this and then change your password.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And while you're at it, recycle that water bottle, right? That's great. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time today and all these great tips, and also for your openness about your personal journey. Really appreciate that. As I said to everyone, we'll include all of the information here as much as we can. There's a lot of it in the show notes and links and things like that, and we'll promise we'll get you to the right socials, the right social here for the Glam Techie, as we say. But really appreciate the time, and encourage folks to seek out Amanda and find her from a mentoring standpoint. I know she's looking to help people do that too. So really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and be well. All right.